I'm 23 and in college. This was about a month ago when winter was just starting during our college's winter break. I spent most of my free time doing DoorDash to make a quick buck. That day I did a few hours earlier, but later on in the night. I got bored again and decided to go out for another few orders. It was around 9 p.m. I picked up a big order, 2 full bags of food and started heading to the address. It was in a neighborhood I'd never been to before. It took me down a long, winding road of normal houses, all the way to the back of the neighborhood. It looked like a dead-end road, but the directions said it was straight ahead. As I pulled closer to the end, my headlights lit up a small wooden gate with numbers on it. It matched the delivery address. Strange thing though, none of the other houses had gates. They were all just along the street, yet this one seemed to be down a long personal driveway. I got out, opened the gate, it didn't have a lock or anything, and drove down this wide gravel road through some trees before reaching a single house at the end. It looked older than all the others, wood and small, definitely not kept up. I got out with the food, left my car running so my headlights lit up the front of the house. But none of the lights were on, not a single one, yet the front door was wide open. As I got onto the porch, I noticed just how quiet it was inside. Such a big order, and it was like nobody was home. Wasn't my concern though. I started placing the bags down when a voice called from upstairs, "Hey, just bring it up here for me, bud." There was a staircase right by the door, but it was so dark inside I couldn't see the top. Stupidly, I took a couple steps inside. Boy, I'll grab it from you right up here." His voice came from that pocket of darkness upstairs. The eerie stillness of the house made me stop. I suddenly snapped out of it, dropped the food, and backed out. I ran to my car and left. I didn't tell anyone at first, but a few days later, I looked up the address. Sure enough, the house wasn't supposed to be occupied. It was an abandoned property owned by the state. What was waiting at the top of those stairs is something I'm glad I'll never know. I work at a really trashy bowling alley in my small town. It's family-owned, tiny, and not very popular. But it used to be a regular hangout because it was open 24/7. This happened in December. I had the dreaded 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift. Was always dead, and this night was even worse. A huge snowstorm was rolling in. From the time I clocked in, not a single customer came. After cleaning all the lanes but one just in case someone did show up, Pi sat at the window. The parking lot was buried in snow. No tire tracks, nothing. With no security cameras and no boss watching, I was practically alone. I must have dozed off because I jolted awake to a loud thud from behind the lanes. I got up and went to the back. Room the pin, machine hallway, pitch black. I didn't hear anything until I noticed water on the floor. It formed clear footprints leading down the hallway. I followed them, calling out. Then I found something taped to the wall, an envelope. Inside were Polaroid photos of me working. Cleaning lanes, sitting at the window. One shot was taken from just feet behind me. I ran out, grabbed the phone, and called 911. While waiting, my anxiety shot up, so I ran to my car and waited there. The police came fast within minutes, but whoever had been watching me left no trace. The alley had no security footage, no leads. Quit a few months later. This happened in early March last year. Snow was melting, and I finally got to go camping again. I hiked 45 minutes into a secluded forest campsite I'd visited the previous fall. It's just a dirt circle with an overlook of the forest. As the sun went down, I noticed a campfire down the hill. No tent, no people. Just a big fire alone in the woods. It was weird. Someone had to have lit it recently, yet no one was there. I watched for over an hour. In fact, the fire grew larger, like it was prepped to last all night. Worried, I walked down with a flashlight. The fire was roaring, too large for something unattended. I started tossing soil to put it out. It took 5 minutes, but I managed. As I walked back, I heard footsteps behind me. Someone was approaching my sight. A figure stood 50 yards away, silent. "Hey, did you light that fire?" No answer. "Hello?" Still nothing. Packed up as fast as I could, all while that figure stood and watched. I left and reported it. To this day, no one knows who it was or what they were doing out there. A few winters ago, I was working from home doing customer service. My shift ran 4 p.m. to midnight. Around 11:30 p.m., I heard a noise behind me. Earlier, I heard something too loud, but brushed it off. This time I got up and checked the hallway. The door at the end of the hall was wide open. I stared in disbelief. Then I saw a shadow move on the wall. Someone was standing at the bottom of the stairs. I locked my office door and called the police, panicked. I sat, frozen, watching the crack beneath the door, but I never heard anyone go upstairs. When the police arrived, no one was found. Somehow someone got into my house, walked past my open office door, and I never noticed. It still terrifies me. How long had they been inside? I was staying at a rental cabin near a skiing resort. I'd spent the whole day skiing and returned around 7 p.m. I showered, ate, and sat by the fireplace to relax. That's when I heard footsteps outside, crunching in the snow. They came right up to the door, paused, then knocked. I answered it, even though I wasn't sure I should have. A man late 30s, thick beard, stood there and said he'd booked the same cabin for the night. I told him there must have been a mistake. When I asked for proof, he made excuses. Started closing the door, but he stopped it with his hand. "Could I maybe come inside just for a minute?" he asked, forcing a smile. Something about him made my skin crawl. I said no and shut the door. He lingered for 30 seconds, then walked away. 2 hours later, I couldn't shake the weird feeling and looked outside. There was someone standing in the woods, just barely visible. I called the cabin property manager, who then called police. Officers arrived and found the man hiding nearby. He had a bag with burglary tools and a hunting knife. He had lied about booking the cabin. If I hadn't checked the window before bed, I probably wouldn't be here today. It was snowing hard the night I was driving home from work. Probably 1 or 2 a.m., the roads were empty. At a red light, there was a sudden knock on my passenger window. A woman was standing there, pale, shivering. She said her car broke down a mile back, and she tried to walk home but was freezing. She asked for a ride, just another mile up the road. Feeling bad, I let her in. She was polite at first, thankful. Then she asked me to turn into a neighborhood I didn't know well. The houses looked old, run down, almost like trailers. My truck started struggling in the snow, and I stopped, asking if this was a good spot. To drop her off, she frowned, then smiled and asked me to keep going. I said no, not wanting to get stuck. She got out, clearly annoyed. As I turned the truck around, my headlights caught several people standing in the distance near where she was headed, right where she wanted me to go. I drove off fast. Whatever they were planning, I didn't stick around to find out. I woke up one winter night to a loud creak like wood or the roof shifting. It sounded odd, but I wasn't worried. Still, I couldn't sleep unless I checked. I walked around the house without turning on the lights. In one room, I stepped in. Something cold and wet. Turning on the light, I saw a line of wet footprints from the window to the hallway leading into my bedroom. My heart dropped. I looked into the hallway, saw the prints continued, and realized someone had entered through that window. They must have passed me when I was in the other room. I grabbed my keys and left the house, calling police from the car. By the time they arrived, the intruder was gone. That night haunts me because of one terrifying thought. Someone stood in my bedroom while I was sleeping. There was a whiteout blizzard that night, and I'd called in sick to work just to avoid driving in it. I fell asleep on the couch while watching TV. Suddenly, I woke up to the sound of coughing. Just one cough, but loud and close. It seemed to come from outside my front door. I looked outwardly white. Snowflakes blurred everything. I turned around to go back to the couch, but something moved down the hallway. I switched on the light. "Is someone in here?" asked aloud. Then there was a bang, quick footsteps, Then a gust of wind slammed into the house. I turned the corner and saw my hallway window wide open. Someone had just escaped through it. I closed it, trembling, and called the police. But the snow had already covered all signs. Whoever was in my home had been watching me sleeping. They vanished into the blizzard. I live near a massive forest and often walk the trails at night with a headlamp. One evening, I noticed someone deep in the trees, a kid, maybe 8 or 9 years old, standing alone. I called out, offering to help. The kid didn't respond, but slowly backed away deeper into the forest. I followed, concerned. They kept just far enough ahead for me to see them, but never spoke. Eventually, they vanished behind a structure, an old shed, falling apart, hidden in the woods. That's when I heard heavy adult footsteps nearby. My stomach dropped. I shut off my light and sprinted back home. I called the police. An officer walked back out with me. We found the shed, but no one was there. Weeks later, the city tore it down. They found something inside, something that connected to a kidnapping case. Authorities never released the details. I don't know who that kid was or if it was even a kid at all. I worked at a gas station in early January. It was freezing, around 10 degrees Fahrenheit, and windy. At midnight, a man entered. I didn't hear a car. He just appeared. He stood near the door, didn't shop, just stared outside. He said he was waiting for a ride and asked to stay warm. I let him. An hour passed. He was still there. I offered the phone. He declined. No car, no movement. Then a vehicle finally pulled up. He looked at me strangely, then walked outside. But instead of getting in, he and the driver talked, glancing toward the store. A horrible feeling sank into my stomach. I locked the door. When the man realized, he ran back and tried to yank it open. The driver did too. I ran to the counter and called police. Seeing me on the phone, they drove off. They were never caught, but I'm sure they had something bad planned that night. Had I not locked the door, I might not be here to tell this story.